I started to get a little depressed while looking at the swarm of aphids completely devouring this bean pod, but that's when I saw it. That's when I noticed the...
Can you see it?
Are you like me? Have you ever had one of those days? While walking through my yard the other day, aka my garden, aka my small urban homestead, I noticed the watermelon vines are almost dead. They couldn't handle the Central Florida sunshine. This bed used to be full of heat-loving pepper plants. They couldn't handle Florida's heat either. The cherry tomatoes are still alive, and it's got a lot of flowers. I know the vast majority of them are going to drop off though. Tomatoes go into survival mode and drop their flowers when temperatures are above 85 to 90 degrees, depending on the variety. Even though we're in the middle of September, our afternoon temperatures in Central Florida are still in the mid-90s. So I know the flowers are going to drop off. It's just simply too hot for them. I haven't had more than a couple of tomatoes in several months because of the summer heat. I do have 2 holding on right now though. I used to have 2 artichoke plants too. They were in pots, and they were doing great through the winter and spring. When the summer heat started coming on though, the artichokes struggled. I moved them into a little bit of shade, and as the temperatures rose, I moved them into more shade. And more shade. They still couldn't handle it though. Now they're dead.
It's dead, Jim.
In past years, I've grown Thai soldier beans on this trellis, and they do pretty good during the heat. What hits them hard though, is the rain that we get this time of the year. In the winter, we can go months without any rain. In contrast, during the peak of summer, we can get multiple inches of rain every day for several days in a row. As a result, a lot of plants that can handle the heat struggle with issues like powdery mildew, blight, root rot, and other problems. Even my lilies are fighting rust that's growing on the leaves, at least in part due to the excessive rain. This year, I tried some brown beans, and they seem to be able to handle the rain with very little issues, but they're dropping most of their flowers due to the heat. So next year, I'm probably going to try Puerto Rican black beans, because I've heard they work really well in Central Florida. If you've grown them here, let me know in the comments below what you thought about them. For this year, I mostly grew them to provide some summer shade for plants in the area. If you look close enough, I have sweet potatoes, a kiwi, a couple of blueberry plants, and several figs. And yes, I know figs love the heat, and they need full sun. I can't stress this enough. Central Florida sun is not the same as most everyone else's sun. Too much sun will kill your plants in Central Florida. It can do it in a single afternoon at certain times of the year. I've seen it happen. I've gone to work with living plants and come home to find them dead.
D-E-D, dead.
Today I came home to find the beans struggling with the heat. They are still producing, just not as much as they should be. I'm growing these as dry beans, and so I leave them on the vine until they turn brown before harvesting. Usually I get enough to provide plenty of beans for my wife and I to eat all year long with enough left over to use as seed for the next year. With these brown beans though, I've barely harvested enough to provide one of us with 1 serving of beans for 1 meal. So it's a little disheartening. And then I saw this bean. Full disclosure, I started to get a little depressed while looking at the swarm of aphids completely devouring this bean pod. It's a lot of work trying to grow food, especially in Central Florida, especially on a very small urban lot with an HOA watching over my shoulder. And I'm trying to get this YouTube channel off the ground too. I also have a full-time job, and thanks to certain politicians, the cost of everything is going up fast. In Central Florida, late summer is arguably the worst time of the year to grow food because it's too hot for most crops. The winter cold snaps are just around the corner, and we're deep in the heart of hurricane season. There's too much heat, too much water, too much disease pressure, and too many bad bugs. Is it even worth trying? Is it worth all the work? Is it worth the stress? There's so many problems. But that's when I saw it. That's when I noticed the ladybug. It's on the other side of the bean pod. It's eating the aphids. It's eating a lot of aphids. Hey, and there's another one. And another one. And another. And another. And another. Wow, they're everywhere. They're just going about their business, multiplying and eating the bad bugs. It's too easy to get distracted by the mess and forget how much life there is living in that mess. But when I take my eyes off the problems and choose to look at both sides of the bean pod, I see the ladybugs. I see the resolution to the problem. I don't need to worry about the aphids because the ladybugs are removing them for me. And I see the frogs. I see the lizard. to see the birds, they're all helping to remove pests from the garden. They're making my life easier just by living in my yard and doing what they do naturally. With an occasional exception of neem oil, I don't spray anything on my plants, and the life living in my yard is one of the main reasons for that choice. Even with neem oil, I'm very careful with it and rarely use it because I don't want to kill the good bugs, like the ladybugs. I know that when the aphid population explodes, the ladybug population will increase right behind it. Looking close enough, I can see the eggs. I can see the baby ladybugs, the teenagers, and the adults. I've even caught them in the act of making new ladybugs.
Get a room, you two!
Don't get me wrong, I'm not ignoring the aphids or the other problems. I'm not disregarding them, I'm not pretending they don't exist, and I'm not burying my head in the sand. I'm choosing to direct my focus on positive things, uplifting things.
Whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable. Excellent things, and things worthy of praise. I'm choosing to focus on the tomatoes that will start providing fruit again as the temperatures cool off. I'm focusing on the figs that are starting to produce fruit. I'm admiring the beauty in the bean flowers, the lily flowers, and oh, it looks like one of the orchids is getting ready to flower as well. We just harvested a rack of bananas and another rack is on the way. My worms are happy and I have enough to provide a large amount of worm castings to several garden beds for a fall feeding. I see the aphids, but I also see the ladybugs. I see the dying plants, but I also see the new sprouts. I see where the flowers have dropped, but I also see the flowers. I see where the summer heat has taken its toll, but I also see where life is preparing to leap into action as soon as the cooler weather arrives. Fall is just around the corner, and I can see it.
Can you see it?
Life has ups, life has downs. Ignoring life's challenges doesn't help anything.
We have the choice of where we set our eyes. We can choose where we focus our energy. We can stay fixed on the negative,
I will never be good enough for you.
or we can see the positive, if we want to see it.
Can you see it?
Just look for a ladybug.
Do you see it?
I fully acknowledge that some days are harder than others. Some days it can be difficult to see the silver lining around the clouds.
There are plenty of reasons to avoid the garden right now. But there are a lot of reasons to enjoy the garden right now too.
Does the phrase, stop and smell the roses, mean anything to you?
Yes it does.
So I'm going to sign off of this video. I'm going to go back outside and find some more flowers, or more plants bouncing back from the heat with new growth. Or I may just watch some random insects crawling around on the leaves, because without ignoring the negative, I'm choosing to focus on the positive. I'm choosing to have a joyful heart. Thank you for spending time with me today. Until next time, I'm going to keep on growing, and you should too.